Please do.
Okay, all right. Let's all rise for the jury, please. You need some water? You okay? You're welcome. Put the temperature at 70 degrees. Is that okay? The water at 67. Please be seated.
Everyone takes good care of us, I think. And it's appreciated, a little warmth is appreciated. We're ready to resume the trial, and I believe Mr. Bourne can call us next witness.
State the call, Azure Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins, would you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and then spelling it so the court reporter spells it right.
I'm Azure Hawkins, AZUREHAWKINS.
Were you looking for the court reporter?
Yeah.
He's right there. Sorry. I know you're looking around like, what the heck is he talking about? All right. Ms. Hawkins, where do you live?
I'm Powder Springs, Georgia.
Okay. And where do you work currently?
I work for Bright Horizons, the Children's Nest.
And where is that?
It's in Austell, Georgia.
How long have you worked there?
2 months.
Before that, did you work for another Bright Horizons business?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jury where that is.
Little Apron Academy in Atlanta, Georgia.
And they've heard a lot about it, so we ain't going to go into all the details of where it is and all that kind of stuff. But is this the one that's at Home Depot corporate headquarters off Paces Ferry?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you work there before you left to go to this other Bright Horizons location?
3 years.
Okay. And while you were there, what was your job? Or did it change at all? Or did you keep the same job for those 3 years?
I kept the same job. I was a toddler teacher.
And did you work in a specific room, different rooms, or something else?
Toddler 5.
During your time there at Little Apron Academy, do you remember a child in your class named Cooper Harris?
Yes.
How long was he in your class?
Almost a year.
Describe a little bit about Cooper. Was he a normal, healthy child? Have any health problems or anything?
No health problems. He was normal, happy, healthy.
Obviously, you get to meet parents of the children when you work with them, right?
Right.
Okay. Did you meet and know Cooper's parents?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember their names?
Leanna and Justin.
Okay. During that time, did it appear that both parents, did they come in, take care of the child? Did it appear to have a normal relationship with their child and with each other as far as you could see?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you ever hang out with them outside of daycare or at home or anything like that?
No.
Okay. I would assume not. You have no idea. You never communicated via like messaging or anything like that with the defendant, correct? With Mr. Harris?
No.
Okay. When Cooper was brought to daycare during the time he was in toddler room 5, who would usually bring Cooper in the morning?
The dad.
And during this time, who would most often pick him up, if you remember? Or was it kind of some of both?
Some of both. A lot of times I wasn't there for pickup.
Okay. Tell the jury, first, what your schedule was, and then what your role was in toddler room 5.
I was a primary teacher. I worked from 7:30 to 4:30.
Okay. So you're there pretty early.
Yes.
When the father would bring Cooper in, around what time, can you estimate about what time he would bring him in?
Breakfast time 8:30 to 9:00, 9:15 sometimes.
Were there times he would be late?
Yes.
Okay. There are a lot of times he was late.
Yes.
Okay. But it appeared he had a pretty flexible schedule.
Right.
Okay. On those occasions, would he call if he being the father of the child, would he call if he was going to be late?
Yes.
Okay. When you were there and the jury's already heard about breakfast at Little Apron Academy and how they get it free if they get there at a certain time. Would the defendant ever call about reserving breakfast for Cooper?
Yes.
Now, during this time, were there also times that the defendant would be later and say, basically let y'all know, hey, he's already eaten?
Yes.
And can you even estimate to the jury about how often it was he would eat before he got there and how often it was that he would eat at Little Apron?
He ate breakfast most days at the Apron when he would come on time for breakfast.
Now, on these occasions where he would eat beforehand, did he ever talk about, did the defendant ever talk about, did you ever notice anything about where he would take Cooper to eat?
Chick-fil-A, sometimes Chick-fil-A. At home, probably, I'm assuming.
Okay. So, as far as you know, at home, and then there'd be occasions he would take him to Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Now, do you like Chick-fil-A? Okay. And was there actually one occasion where the defendant said, hey, I'm stopping by Chick-fil-A, Cooper and I are, and you asked him for food?
Yes.
Or did you actually just call him up and say, hey, I want some Chick-fil-A?
I don't remember if I called or if he called, but I asked for Chick-fil-A.
Okay. And did he bring it?
Yes.
Okay. So, in addition to that, were there several other occasions where they would go by Chick-fil-A before they came?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as interacting, was Cooper, can you describe how he was as far as his activity level?
He was active toddler, talking and playing with his friends. He was very active.
And was this something that developed over the months leading up to, unfortunately, June 18, 2014?
Yes, yes.
When he would come in, would you notice how he was when he would come into the Little Apron Academy when his dad brought him in, as far as being awake, asleep, or something else?
Yes, sometimes he would be awake, sometimes he would be sleeping, and he would carry him in on his shoulder or in the car seat.
And when he came in and he was awake, how would he be when he was coming in? He being Cooper, sorry.
He would be active. He would be awake. He would walk in and come wash his hands and sit down for breakfast.
Now, on these occasions where they would stop beforehand and get Chick-fil-A, and he'd have already eaten, how would Cooper be?
Awake, active, come in, same routine every day.
I'm going to turn your attention to June 18, 2014, the day that Cooper passed. Were you working that day?
Yes.
Okay. What time did you actually leave that day? You don't have to give me an exact time, but around, was it your usual time?
Yes.
Okay. Were you already gone from Little Apron Academy when the mother arrived?
Yes.
I think that's all I have, man. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
tell me, when did you start, or rather, when did Cooper start in your room?
I'm assuming during transition time, around August
Of
2014.
August of the year before he died?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 13.
Okay. So you think you had him from August until he died in June?
Yes.
Okay. And who was in the room with you?
Michelle and Kiana.
Michelle Gray?
Yes.
Okay. And Kiata?
Patrick.
Have you seen her today?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you know who some of the other teachers are that had Cooper?
Karima was in the infant room with him, Karima Fletcher.
Okay.
And I believe Kiana was in there too. She transitioned with me.
All right. And were you personal friends with Ross and Leanna outside of Little Aprons?
No.
Do you know if anybody there was?
No.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. Did you ever go over to their home?
No.
Do you know if Karima ever went over to their home to babysit?
I'm not sure.
Not sure? All right, and typically y'all would serve breakfast about 8:30.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes a little earlier,
Yes.
maybe sometimes a little later.
Yes.
That's when y'all shot for, was about 8:30.
Yes. 8:30.
All right. And kids would be coming in during that 8 o'clock hour.
Right.
And they would come in during the breakfast hour. If they came in, say, at 8:40 or 8:45, it would already be underway. They would just get their little plate and get started, right?
Right.
You remember occasions where were you aware that Cooper had already had something to eat that morning, but he wanted to eat again at second breakfast when he got there?
Yes.
He was kind of he had a good appetite. Is
Yes.
that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. And you were actually in the room when Ross would bring Cooper into the room.
Yes.
In other words, you weren't out at the front desk.
No.
All right. So if Ross brought Cooper in dead asleep and set him down when they got inside and walked with him into your room, you wouldn't have any way of knowing that.
No.
All right. By any chance, were you shown any videos of the lobby area for June 2014?
No.
Nobody showed you that?
No.
Okay. And you indicated that you had knowledge that, of course, Cooper wouldn't eat breakfast every day at Little Aprons, right?
Right.
Sometimes they would come in even after 9 o'clock or 9:30.
Right.
And on occasions, Ross might even bring him in at 10.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe what you said was you assumed that he was eating at home. Okay. But I mean, you don't have any way of knowing how often Ross would feed him at home, do you?
No.
And you said you knew of occasions where Cooper would have gone to Chick-fil-A in the morning.
Right.
You don't have any idea how many times that was either, do you?
No.
All right. You said as far as getting all the way into your room, sometimes Cooper would be awake and sometimes he would be asleep.
Right.
And if he was asleep, Ross would be carrying him, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. And you obviously didn't do some sort of chart for that. You don't have any recollection of how often he'd be awake, how often he'd be asleep, Sometimes he was awake, sometimes he was asleep.
Right.
Did you just get here this morning?
Last night?
Last night, okay. Did you have a chance to go through your testimony with the prosecutors last night?
This morning?
Just this morning?
Yes.
Upstairs in the DA's office?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Ross was he was a very engaged parent, very engaged dad with Cooper, wasn't he?
Yes.
There would be occasions when he would actually come back to Little Aprons during the day just to check on Cooper, hang out,
Yes.
and that wasn't every day.
No, not every day.
It wasn't every week,
No.
but he did it occasionally.
Yes.
And when he brought him in the morning, Ross wasn't the kind of dad that would just drop and run. He got him settled, sometimes actually sat down on the floor and played with him, didn't he?
Right.
Now, I'm assuming that there might be some families there that you actually are personal friends with outside of Little Aprons. Are there any families that you're particularly close to that way?
No, not personal friends. We
Okay.
have babysit.
Okay.
It's work.
All right. So there's some families you might have gone into their home to babysit or something like that.
Yes.
But you're not typically going out to dinner or up at night texting or talking on the phone to any of the parents, right?
No, no.
Right. I believe you just said it's work. It's work.
Yes.
I know you love the children or you wouldn't be doing this kind of work.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's a job, right?
Yes.
Okay? You're being paid to be there and work. Parents don't come in and tell you their intimate personal business, do they?
No.
If Ross was being unfaithful to his wife, you wouldn't expect him to come in and unload that on you, would you?
I should hope
No.
not.
Okay. It would be weird. And if Ross was during the day when he got in his car and drove back over to Home Depot and he was in his office, and let's say he was looking at pornography or he was sexting, you wouldn't expect that would be something that he would share with you. You didn't have that kind of friendship or relationship with him, right?
No.
You wouldn't expect any parent to share that with you, would you?
No.
You a little bit nervous? A little bit? Okay. You're doing fine. Yeah, let's see. Leanna would call occasionally as well. She would call if Cooper wasn't going to be there.
Yes. Or she would text. She would text and say that, oh, we're going to Alabama or we're not going to be there tomorrow.
Okay. And sometimes Ross would call.
Right. Or they would tell us the night before.
Okay. And sometimes if Ross wanted y'all to hold food for him, he'd call and say, hey, I'm running late. I need y'all to hold some breakfast.
Yes.
And it wasn't every time, but it was
Most of
on
the time.
occasion he would.
Yeah.
What time is breakfast usually over?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. All right, so by 9 o'clock, somebody's not there. Y'all are already putting everything away.
Right.
Might have a little plate off to the side just in case, but
If he
typically.
called, we would set aside food.
All right. If I could just have just one moment. Okay? Thank you. That's all I have.
Just briefly, based on one of the issues across, I know defense counsel asked you about whether families discuss their sex life and things like that, right?
Right.
Okay, and all you knew about the defendant is how he portrayed himself, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you heard or knew that he was sexting other women and going to prostitutes and things like that, would that be night and day from the way he portrayed himself to you?
Right. Right.
That's all I have.
How he portrayed himself to you was, in fact, what you saw over the period of more than a year with Cooper, which was, you knew he loved that little boy. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And you knew it because of the way that he interacted with him,
Yes.
the way that he came back during the day just to check on him, the way that he came back for special occasions to dress up as the tool, or to be there for the parades, and to be involved. That's how you knew that Ross loved that little boy. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Did he also act like he loved his wife?
Yes.
That's all I have, Judge.
Anything further?
No, ma'am.
Next witness.
They would call Michelle Gray.
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you shall give to the court in Missouri, that you nothing but the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Ma'am, would you please introduce yourself to the jury by telling them your name and spelling it so the court reporter gets it correct? And the court reporter's right there, just so you may not be able to see him around the corner there.
Michelle Gray, Michelle, last name Gray.
And Ms. Gray, generally, where do you live? You don't have to give us your address.
I live in Lilburn, Georgia.
Okay, and where do you currently work?
I work for Gwinnett County Public Schools.
And what do you do for Gwinnett County?
I'm a parapro.
How long have you worked in that job?
This will be my third year.
Back in June of 2014, I guess just a little over 2 years ago, where were you working?
I was working at Little Apron.
Okay. And what was your job at Little Apron?
I was a co-teacher in Toddler 5.
There in Tyler 5, who else did you teach with?
Azure and Kiana.
And tell the jury, they've heard a ton this morning about Little Apron. But generally, what did you do on a daily basis?
I was the closer in the room, so I came in between 9:15 and 9:30, and then if there was three of us in there, then we would assist each other, and then sometimes we would have planning, and one would go out, two would stay in the room. So
How late would you stay if you're closing? What were your hours? Or did it kind of depend on when people would pick up their kids?
yeah, it would depend on how late the kids stayed. We closed at 6:30, if I remember right. So they have until 6:30 to pick their kid up.
During the time you were there at Little Apron, how long were you there?
I was a little under a year. I had lived in Canton at the time, and I just transferred to Little Apron. But I found out I was pregnant the first couple of weeks I was there.
So during the time you were with Little Aprons, you had a little bit of a, I'm not going to call it a break, because people are going to start throwing stuff at me. Did you miss work for a few months?
I had maternity leave.
Okay, and about how long were you gone?
I think about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
I think early March to late April.
Okay.
So.
All right, so during the time you were at Little Apron, during that roughly year, did you get the opportunity to take care of a child in your room named Cooper Harris?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also get to interact with his parents as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember their names?
Leanna and Rose Harris.
Now, when you interacted with them at daycare, did you, were y'all, basically, your relationship with the family, was it simply working at Little Apron Academy, or did y'all ever hang out or anything outside of that?
I just saw them at the Little Apron Academy.
And as far as you could tell there from what you saw at Little Apron Academy, did they appear to have a normal relationship?
Yes.
Okay. And did the defendant appear to treat the child appropriately and things of that nature?
Yes.
And the mother as well, did she?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you just a few questions. When you came back from maternity leave back in late April, had Cooper actually had a growth spurt and grown a lot?
Mm-hmm. He was talking a lot more.
Okay. And when he was talking a lot more, I guess, tell the jury when you say talking, how was he talking? How extensive, I guess, was it? It was us saying talking and then talking about toddlers talking. Maybe
He learned how to say my name, which I thought was adorable. So.
In fact, and you know why we're here about him passing on June 18, 2014. The night before he passed away, did he actually say something to you on his way out?
Yeah, he said bye, show.
On the occasions when he would be dropped off in the morning, as far as the times you were there, getting there between 9:30, who would drop him off when you were there to actually see it?
The Rose.
And when he dropped Cooper off, can you even estimate to the jury about what times it would be?
Sometimes he would walk in with me or right after me. I think the latest I've seen that he dropped him off was between 10 and 10:30 that I can remember.
And as far as picking up Cooper, would both parties pick them up, or would one pick up more than the other? The parties being the father and the mother.
Mom pretty much picked up that I could remember.
Were there occasions when the defendant would actually pick him up?
Yes.
And do you remember about what times it would be when the mother would pick the child?
She would pick up probably between like 3:30 and 4:30, like almost 5.
Did you, on some occasions, would Cooper be out of school?
Sometimes.
Okay. And were there occasions where he would actually go to Alabama with Leanna for work?
Yes.
Where she would go work in Alabama?
She
he
would
go to
usually
work?
tell us the night before, or way ahead of time if he was going to be out.
All right. Now, turn your attention to June 18, 2014. Were you actually working that day?
Yes.
When you got there, was Cooper in the classroom?
No.
During that day, let's talk about that afternoon, late in the afternoon, about, I guess, 4:15, 4:20, 4:25, up to 4:30. What had you been doing, but then where did you go at Little Apron?
That day,
Yes, that day.
I had helped the co-teacher, Kiara, help get the kids outside when I came back in, and I was planning, because we had student conferences or parent conferences
Yes, ma'am.
that we had to get ready for.
Okay. And so around 5:25 p.m., you were in the toddler room.
Yes, I knew that Kiara had to go to another room, so I went in, took over for her, and then we came back in, and we started changing diapers, and then she went to another room, and I continued to change diapers.
While you were in there, is there a phone in there where it just rings directly to the toddler room? Where you can call into it?
Yes.
Okay. Particularly that day, do you remember it ever ringing while you were in there?
No.
Okay. Did you ever talk to anybody while you were in there?
No.
Okay. And did you ever see anybody else come in and pick up the phone and use it?
No.
At some point while you were there, do you remember the mother coming in to Little Apron?
She came in while I was changing diapers. I was standing over by the cubbies, and I saw her walk across. There's a window for the classroom, and I saw her walk and thought to myself, well, that's weird. That's Cooper's mom. And she came in,
And did you tell her anything?
I told her, I was like, well, what are you doing here? Cooper's not here.
And during the course of that, what was her demeanor? As far as you
She was
remember?
confused. She looked frantic.
Now, also, are you familiar with the, I don't know if I call it a newsletter, but something y'all send out called What in the World?
What in the world? Yes.
Okay, tell the jury a little bit about that. They've already seen it, but just in your own description for what that is.
The What in the World is basically a little, it gives the parents a little taste of what their child did that day. We write it every day during their nap time, and we send it out to all the parents in the classroom.
Now, when you send it out as an attachment to an email, as a part of an email, or how does it go out?
It's attached to an email. We put it in, we design it on Microsoft Word, and then we attach it to the email.
And who do you email it to? Is it like you have to input everybody's name, or is it a list that you use every day?
Under my address, I have an address book of all the parents that it automatically sends to all the parents in the classroom that are on roll.
And was Justin Ross Harris, was the Cooper's father, was he on the email list
Yes.
as well? Now, who would send out the Where in the World? Was it you every day, or did it kind of...
It just depended on the day on who either got to it or whose turn it was.
And on June 18, 2014, did you actually send the What in the World at 1:26 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
Going to show defense counsel what I've already marked for identification purposes, shown in the State's Exhibit 315. All right, Ms. Gray, showing you what's been marked for identification purposes of State's Exhibit 315. Ask you to identify that by just telling me what that is.
This is the email that I sent with the attachment.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the email and attachment that you sent on June 18, 2014, that afternoon?
Yes.
Your Honor, I tender State's Exhibit 315.
You're going to get
Admitted.
All right. And Ms. Gray, I'm going to ask you to look at just a couple of things on there. First of all, can you see, and the jury will have this anyway, but do you see that the defendant, Justin Harris's name, was in the attached people who that was sent to?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the time that that was sent?
1:26.
And looking at that attachment, the actual What in the World? Okay. Is that the actual What in the World that was sent that day?
Yes.
Was Cooper's name or Cooper's picture anywhere there?
No.
And when you actually have kids there that are at the school, do you send those every day?
Yes.
Okay. When you do you usually try to get pictures of all the kids, trying to be inclusive and stuff like that, or does it depend?
We try to get a picture, like group activities, like if all the kids are involved, a picture of all of them. Parents like to see their kid, a picture of their kid during the day.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have, Judge.
Most of the time.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so you indicated that you were at Little Aprons for about under a year. All right, Cooper died in June of 2014. How long had you been there at that time?
I had started the week of July 4th the year before,
Okay.
and then He came into the room in August, I believe. So, I mean,
August of 2013.
yes.
So you had him almost a year.
Oh, yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So you knew Ross.
Yes.
All right. But you weren't typically there in the mornings.
No.
Right.
I didn't get there till about 9:15.
And you know that Ross usually was the one who brought him in the morning. Or do you know?
I don't know.
You don't know
I
because you
mean,
weren't there.
no.
Okay. You just know that in the afternoons, more often than not, it was Leanna that picked him up.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had more interaction with Leanna.
Yes.
She picked him up. I don't want to ask you a percentage, but would it be fair to say maybe 4 out of 5 days during the week?
I mean,
That's probably not that. She did it most of the time.
yeah, most of the time.
But you knew Ross because he had done pickup occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally, yes.
All right. And how many times were they both there at the same time doing pickup?
I think I only saw them a handful of times together.
Okay. 2 or 3?
Yeah.
And was that because they got their signals crossed and she came to pick up and he didn't know that she was picking up or something like that?
No, a couple times I've seen them, they walked in together.
Okay. So over a year, you think maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
All right. So you were asked to offer an opinion about the nature of their relationship, that being Ross and his wife. And so your opinion would be based on just the 2 or 3 times that you saw them together walking in the afternoon. Yeah. And I'm assuming those were very short encounters.
Yes.
It's the end of the day. Let's get our stuff together.
We have other kids in the
Yeah.
room, so
There's not a lot of hanging out at the end of the day. It's time to go. Is that fair to say? Okay. And you're fine with that because it's time to go. All right. So it's fair to say your opportunity to observe Ross and Leanna together was extremely limited. Fair to say?
together, yeah.
But you did know Leanna. You saw her quite a bit. All right. Were y'all personal friends?
Not outside of work.
Okay. You certainly knew her enough to kind of have an opinion of sort of the way she was, the way she communicated, the way she talked. Is that fair to say? Yeah? If not, you can say no.
I mean,
Well, the reason why I'm asking that was you said something about on the 18th when Leanna came in and you asked her, so what are you doing here? Cooper's not here. Your testimony was that she appeared frantic and confused.
yes.
It was clear to you that it was a surprise to her that Cooper wasn't there.
Yes.
Did you tell that to the police when they talked to you? Did you tell the police that Leanna was obviously confused and frantic?
I mean, I told him that she was surprised.
Basically the same stuff you told us this morning.
Yes.
You told the police that. How many times did you talk to police?
I was interviewed twice.
All right, and was the first time at Little Aprons?
Yes.
All right. Did you just get here today?
Yes.
So you've already had a long day. Fair to say?
Well, I came in last night.
Oh, you came in last night?
Yeah.
All right. So you've had a chance to talk to them last night or this morning about what we were going to do this morning and kind of go over your testimony a little bit. Okay. All right, so the first time you were interviewed was on July the 1st, correct? 2014?
Yeah.
At Little Aprons?
Yes.
And that was Detective Stoddard?
Yes.
All right. And do you remember when your second interview was? 2 months later?
Yes,
Where was that interview?
that was somewhere downtown.
Okay. Was it in a lawyer's office
Yes,
in downtown Atlanta?
yes. It's Bright Horizons lawyer.
Were you asked to come down to that lawyer's office to make another statement? When you went in there, you had a lawyer for Bright Horizons.
Yeah, the lawyer of Bright Horizons.
He was representing you.
He was representing everybody at Bright Horizons.
Okay. Well, let me ask this: you don't know of anybody else that got called to downtown Atlanta to a lawyer's office to have to give another statement, right?
Not that I know of.
And this would have been maybe the end of August.
I don't know the date exactly.
July 14, does that sound about right? Maybe about a month after Cooper died?
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Okay. And in that lawyer's office was also Detective Stoddard, who you knew because you already talked to him at the Lakelands, right?
I don't remember if he was there or not. I know there was another guy that I didn't know.
A couple of police officers. And they were asking you about the telephone in the toddler room. Is it toddler room 5?
Tyler Fine.
Okay. They were asking you about phone calls to toddler room 5 on June 8th.
Yes.
Is that right? And they wanted to know if you had picked up the phone and talked to Ross.
Yes. That's correct.
And you told them that no,
I did not.
I did not. In fact, they told you that they had some video showing that there was nobody else that had come back into that room.
That's correct.
But they continued to ask you quite a few times if you had picked up the phone and talked to Ross.
That's right.
And you continued to tell them, no, sir, I did not. And that's what you told them over and over. And the detective confronted you and asked you to explain how in the world that could be. Because they had records showing that there was a phone call to the number in toddler room 5. Isn't that true?
They showed me a printout of a phone log.
Phone call, okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember the detective asking you over and over to explain it? How can this be?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened.
And you told them that. Yeah, I don't know. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And then the detective warned you that making a false statement was a crime, didn't he?
Yes.
And you hadn't made a false statement, had you? You told them the truth from the beginning. The beginning being the first time you were interviewed, didn't you?
Yes.
And you told them over and over again in that lawyer's office in downtown Atlanta. And you
Objection, asked and answered several times.
I'll go to something else, Judge. Hey, we mark these individually, please. Brian, what am I on? Am I on 22? 23? Okay. This is going to be 23? Do you remember the detective asking you that day in the lawyer's office if you had a relationship with Ross Harris?
Yes, he did.
And told him, no, I do not. I'll check the emails on the back side.
Okay.
That's fine. This is from July 2000. Yes. Well, this is what we got. Okay, I'm going to show you two exhibits that are, I know you know this. It's okay. I'm going to show you two things that are marked here, okay? This is marked Defendant's Exhibit 23, and this one's marked Defendant's Exhibit 24. And I want to ask you if you could just take a look at those, and I guess start with 23 and then look at 24 and see if those look familiar, and if you could tell me what those are.
These are the what memorials.
Yeah.
One's from infant 4 and one is from toddler 5.
And if you can flip those over on the back, those appear to be the corresponding emails that that would have been sent out to the parents.
Okay.
Does that look right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I've handed you, these are in fact the emails and what in the world attachments that would have gone out. That's what these are. And number 23 is from July 2nd, 2013. And number 24 is from February the 7th, 2014. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll move 23 and 24.
No objection.
Admitted.
All right. And so the one that's from Defendant's Exhibit 23. All right. So take a look at this one from July 2013. And do you see on there that Cooper and Ross are in that world?
Yes.
And why were they photographed in that particular weapon?
Well, it says, today we had Cooper's dad and grandfather stop by to pay classroom a visit.
Okay. And do you recognize Cooper's dad, Ross, in that picture?
Yes.
And you recognize Cooper?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So this is something that y'all would have put in the attachment and sent out that email because basically it was a matter of interest of the day. You had a visitor, Ross and his dad, or Cooper's dad and grandfather. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how many children are at Little Aprons on most days? A lot.
It depends on the classroom.
It could be more than 300 if you have the school children.
I can't say. I mean,
It could be more than 200, sure.
maybe, I don't know.
Is it?
It's a bunch.
Okay. All right. And you indicated you try to have group photos.
If we do a group activity, yes.
But you agree that usually in the Rutland world, there's only a handful of children out of those couple hundred. There's only a handful that are ever, their images ever appear in this newsletter.
I try and do group photos when I do the What in the World.
Sure. And on this particular day that we just identified, Exhibit 23 from July 2013, there are a total of 4 children, right? Including Cooper on that day. All right. And then this one that you've identified as Defendant's Exhibit 24. Okay. Take a look there under the language section. And you see that Cooper is mentioned on that day.
just moved to this one. Got my house, put it up with Cooper turning the pages.
There's not a, is there an image of him? Yeah. Who's that Cooper's with in that picture?
That is Miss Melinda.
Miss Melinda? Yes. Okay. So we've got 2 days here that we know of that he was mentioned or photographed. July 2nd of 2013 and February the 7th of 2014, right? Okay.
Oh, okay.
The emails that come, these attachments, they're actually just for your room, right?
When I first started, we had a room email address, and then Bright Horizons switched us over to a personal, like having Bright Horizons for each one of us.
Okay. How many kids would you normally have in your room?
I think the maximum was 10. That's with 2 teachers.
Do you have those items?
I got it.
Oh, did I hand them to you?
Somebody did.
Okay. I'm going to show you 4 more documents. This is Defendant's Exhibit 25, 26, 27, and 28. And just see if you can identify those.
One more from June 17th. One more from April 28th. March 13th, one more, and then the June 16th.
I'm going to move 23 and 24.
Oh, no objection to those.
Here, Bennett.
All right, and these other 4 you've identified, you said from June the 17th, 2014, April 28th, 2014, March 13th, 2014, and June the 16th, 2014. These are the same things we're talking about. These are the What in the World attachments that were gone out for those particular days. Okay? I'll move 25, 26, 27, 28.
Any objection?
No objection.
Admitted.
All right, and so this was number 25 is the What in the World from June the 17th, right? Okay. So this would have been the day before Cooper died. And you agree there's not an image or mention of Cooper in that one. Okay. And these other dates without going through them all sort of one by one. Hard to tell. Look at this one, April the 28th. Not that one, is it? All right, here's March the 13th. That's a ball. It's a little boy's head. Can't see his face. Can you tell it? There's no mention of Cooper in that one.
I was on maternity leave.
Oh, you're returning again. And then on June the 16th, there's no image or mention of Cooper on that one either. Okay. And it's fair to say these are just examples. This is similar to what would go out on most days. But there's not any notation anywhere on those What in the World attachments. There's no notation as to the children who were absent that day, right? So if Cooper's mom, if Leanne Harris pulled up her email and opened the attachment, say for any particular day, there's not a place in there where she can see, oh, Cooper's not there today. There's no absence row. And in fact, on that day of the 18th, anybody that opened the email and looked at the attachment, they wouldn't have seen something specifically listed that Cooper was not there that day, would they? Thank you.
Few other questions. Now, Mr. Kilgore asked you several questions about that second interview with the police and things like that. Okay. When police questioned about it, they told you their concerns, correct? And objectively, you were the only person in the room, and they had records of a 6-minute call to that room and things like that. Did they also tell you about other issues they had discovered regarding the defendant and carrying on all kinds of stuff with other people?
I would object. That would be hearsay.
Judge, he asked several questions about what they told her in that interview. I'm asking her if they also mentioned that as well.
What's it offered for?
It's offered for her state of mind as far as her being asked those questions and then her response.
I sustain it.
So they asked you questions about this. They showed you records. We've got this. We've got a phone call. Were you aware that it looked like he was on the phone at the scene? Did you have that information? Okay. So, and I know they asked if the officers had mentioned, used the term obstruction at some point. Was that at the end of your interview?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever arrested or anything like that? Okay. And I guess stepping back from, you said you didn't make that phone call. Objectively, though, the officers asking that question, do you think there was anything wrong with them trying to follow up on that and try to figure out?
Objection, also speculation.
Your Honor, I believe they've asked certain questions of her about how she was handled and things like that. I think this is following up about how she felt versus objectively what the facts were.
Well,
So kind of looking at it objectively, can you understand why they were asking you those questions and why they had those concerns?
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to be clear, I think they cleared it up on the cross, but when they talked about hundreds of students and things like that, the what in the world, are those sent specifically from your classroom? Yes. Okay, so you're not choosing like photographs, these are not taken from like hundreds of people or anything like that, and they just pick out somebody. This is just like the 10 people in your class and who comes to class that day.
Yes.
Okay. And that picture of, the one that was sent, the picture of the defendant and his dad and Cooper, that's July 2013, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Have you had an opportunity to listen to that interview again at the lawyer's office? Has anybody let you listen to that tape? No. Okay. You said you've understood why they might be asking you those questions. Is it fair to say at that time you couldn't understand why they wouldn't just believe you when you kept saying over and over, I didn't pick up that phone. I didn't have a conversation with it.
I was frustrated because I know I didn't pick up the phone. And, I mean, the information was out there about what was going on.
Well, it's fair to say you certainly had the sense they weren't believing you, were they? They weren't. Okay. And I know you were asked about not being arrested. You weren't arrested, thank God, right? Okay. But you were scared, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I did nothing wrong.
No, you didn't. Thank you.
Nothing for you, Judge.
You're free to go. Next witness.
State called Jeff Jackson. Good almost afternoon. Would you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and spelling for the court reporter?
My name is Jeffrey Jackson, Jeffrey Jackson.
And where do you currently work?
I work at Home Depot.
What's your job?
I'm an IT security engineer.
Back in June or in 2014, what was your job then?
My role was on the IT security engineering team. We have what's called vendor resource management, where we have various vendors who do services for us for various things for IT security. And I was in charge of managing the resources for them.
Okay. And when it comes to somebody asking for phone records or something like that from Home Depot, specifically looking at the Little Apron Academy there at Home Depot headquarters, were you the custodian of records for any type of phone records?
Yes, the point of contact where for that particular vendor, if there was a call that needed to come in to be traced or inbound, outbound, a call needed to be blocked, I would be the person to contact that.
And I'm just going to show the defense counsel, show them again what's been marked as State Exhibit 316. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 316? Just look at all three pages and look at that when you're done reviewing it. And what is that?
The third page is a 30-day report for a request that was made for me to actually check a call that was coming in and want to know where the call was being routed in Home Depot.
Okay. And that certification that you signed at the first, is that, did you go through all that and certify that you're the custodian of records and things like that, and this is accurate as far as the records that you order and maintain?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your Honor, I tenure State's 316 at this time.
Objection.
No, ma'am.
Admitted.
And I'm just going to ask you a few questions just looking at it. We're not going to go through anything in detail. But when you look at those records, what is the phone number that you pulled records for relevant to phone calls to Home Depot from a particular number?
Okay. I was asked to pull records for the number 205-792-6806.
Okay. Do you have any idea whose phone that even is?
No.
Okay. And when you're looking at that, are those records of the times of the calls? Are those, what time are they? Eastern, middle, central? It's kind of middle, right?
Right. They're Central Daylight Time.
Okay. All right. So everything on there, it would be an hour later than the time reflected on there as far as if it's Eastern time, correct? Okay. And does it also list a general duration of phone call?
Yes, it is.
And when you look at that, does it have whether the phone call is inbound or outbound?
Yes, it has both inbound and outbound.
Okay. And so if it is outbound, is that a call from Home Depot to that number or from that number to Home Depot?
If it is outbound, it is from the Home Depot to the number that is being called.
And if it's inbound, it is coming from that 6806 number to Home Depot?
Correct. It's an external number inbound to Home Depot. Correct.
And are there phone calls on there, are there numbers specific to Home Depot generally and other numbers?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What would be the number for the jury that if somebody called in generally to Home Depot, the main line?
The main line would be 770-433-8211.
And when that is called, is it reflected, are you given the option when you call in to actually access a specific a room or phone if you type in an extension?
Yes, you're given the option to, once you call in for the voice attendant, if you know the extension of the number to reach a person you need to reach, you can put that number in and it will route you directly to that extension.
And the extension to the toddler room 5 at Little Apron Academy, what is its extension, and do you have that on there as well?
It is here. The extension is 80808.
All right. And any other phone calls from Home Depot other than that general to 80808, would those be other specific phones within Home Depot and Little Apron Academy?
Yes. Yes.
I think that's it. So we're clear. Other than that, do you know anything about this case as far as your work at Home Depot?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hey, good morning. So how long have you been a security engineer at Home Depot in Atlanta?
I've been there for 15 years.
Okay. And your office is not in the Treehouse location where Ross worked, right?
No, it's not correct.
It's in the main complex
Yes.
off of, I can't remember the name of that road.
Paces Ferry Road.
Yeah, Pace Ferry is the main road. But
Yes.
Okay. All right. And is all of the security group located there together?
At that time, yes.
Can you tell me who Michael Merritt is?
He's one of the people with corporate security, I believe.
Corporate security?
I believe so.
Home Depot corporate.
Home Depot first.
Okay. Can you tell me who David Steele is?
Name doesn't sound familiar to me right now.
Can you tell me who Jeff Partin is? Partin.
Jeff Partin is with corporate security.
Can you tell me who Paul Kaplan is?
Paul Kaplan is with the attorneys with the legal team. Home Depot.
Legal Services Division?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me who Cecil Payne is?
Cecil Payne is with IT security, he's with forensics.
All right, so David Steele is the only, that's the only name that you don't recognize. And Michael Merritt is corporate security, Jeff Partin is corporate security, Paul Kaplan is legal services, and Cecil Payne is, you said, IT security?
Yes, he's with our forensics team.
And are all of y'all in the same complex?
Yes, we're on the same building.
When were you asked to pull and identify this exhibit?
I don't remember the exact date without my notes, but I know that I was requested to do a trace on a phone number. I had to contact our vendor who handles that resource for us and ask them to provide a 30-day report based on that number.
All right, so that's your signature?
Yes, sir.
And there's a date there, April the 22nd, 2016.
Yes, sir.
All right. And was that in fact the date that you pulled this and identified it?
Yes, sir.
About 6 months ago?
Yes.
Roughly. Okay. And then were you asked to also sign some sort of certification at a later date?
Yes, sir.
And was that September the 1st, 2016?
Yes, sir.
A little more than 6 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appreciate it. That's all I've got, Judge.
One follow-up issue. Aside from those records, did you actually pull those numbers way back when this actually happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you were actually provided that to the police, just not that version of it, right?
It's not that person correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Next witness.
we approach judge.
Yes. Gentlemen, we have worked hard and we're still recovering from the storm. If Brooks here is still a little bit complicated, it's going to get much better tomorrow. I have assurances. So anyway, we're done for the day. I told y'all it'd be a short day, and it's a short day. I do have lunch for you all. Y'all can stay for it or you can leave. It's just really up to you. Here's what I have to say to you right this minute. As you well know, keep an open mind. Don't discuss this case with anyone at all. No independent investigation, research, etc. No media exposure at all. Close your notepads, leave them in your jury room, and then if you would like to leave, you can. If you will want to take a break outside with the bailiffs, that's fine too. And if you want to wait and get your lunch, you're welcome to do so. Thank you all very much. And I want to thank you for being patient with us. I appreciate it very, very much.
One step, going down.
I said no pressure, but yeah, pressure's I'll smell it. Well, let's see what happens. All right. We're in recess until 8:30 in the morning. Everybody have a good afternoon. And we're going to have fuller days, correct?
I'm sorry?
We're going to have more full days.
Yeah, I know for sure starting Monday, we're going to be lined up again like we were before. Tomorrow, I think it's going to occupy a bit of time. More than today. But yeah, we